We began Term 2 as a Gonski reform state, with the Prime Minister and the New South Wales Premier signing a National Education Reform Agreement on the 23rd of April. If this becomes legislation, the agreement will mean that New South Wales government schools will gain additional funding, for which they will implement the requirements of the National Plan for School Improvement. Other states and territories have until the 30th of June to decide on whether or not to sign the agreement. What does this mean for independent schools? Well, all independent schools have received the modelling results that compares the funding they would receive under the Gonski model with that received under the current model. The Prime Minister has said that no independent school will lose funding in real terms, even if the Gonski model indicates they would. Funding to those schools will remain the same, indexed at 3% for the next 3 years. But for independent schools, much is still unresolved or unclear. Firstly, there are ongoing issues with the reliability of the data used in the Gonski modelling. From the modelling I've seen, there are some very odd results as to which independent schools lose or gain funding. This is important because whether schools technically lose or technically gain in the new model will affect the amount of indexation they get in the future. And it ranges, I believe, from 3% to 4.7%, so that skews the relative amounts over time. Secondly, previous government funding, for example targeted programs for students with a disability or with learning issues, will cease, and this needs to be taken into account when the new funding amount is considered. Thirdly, there is no clarity on how independent schools are expected to meet the conditions of the agreement, particularly some of the demands of the National Plan for School Improvement. For St Catherine's, according to the current Gonski funding model, we will lose over $500,000 per year in funding. That's well over $500 per child. Although we have been given a guarantee that there will be no loss of funding in real terms, the lack of transparency to date, alongside the knowledge that previous government guarantees have not been ironclad, means that I'm cautious about the reform agreement at this stage.